This is the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show, a weekly recap of your Philadelphia Eagles. Broadcasting live from Hard Rock Cafe in Philadelphia, tonight's show is brought to you by Penn Community Bank, Hard Rock Cafe, Philadelphia, Independence Blue Cross, The Capitol Grill, Rob's Automotive and Collision, and BCWSA. We now go live to the Hard Rock Cafe in downtown Center City, Philadelphia for the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show. Now, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and Paul Domowitch.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Hard Rock Cafe at 12th and Market Street here in Philadelphia, the beautiful renovated Hard Rock Cafe, where we've just had our holiday season. Hopefully you had a great holiday season, had a great New Year, a great Christmas, great Kwanzaa, great Hanukkah, whatever it was. This is the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff. I'm Paul Jolovitz, along with Paul Domowitch. Our guest we'll introduce in a quick second. You may know him as one of the great Eagle linebackers of all time, a guy who should be in Canton but isn't yet. We're going to talk to Bill Bergey about a lot of stuff, including the Eagle game that happened yesterday. Paul Domowitch, obviously the Eagles woke up on the wrong side of bed yesterday. Is a trend that you see continuing, and should the panic button be hit?
No, I mean, I think, you know, they're getting Jalen Hurts back this week. You know, the Giants won't be playing most of their starters, so I think they'll win that game, get the #1 seed in the playoffs. And, you know, I mean, that's you know, right now they don't have the momentum you want a team to have, but I think they'll get it back.
Always talk about getting into the playoffs. Doesn't matter what your record is. Doesn't matter what you did at the beginning of the year. It matters that you're hot and healthy. And Bubba, which is Bill Bergey's nickname, we'll be referring to him the whole show. We're happy to have you here. Happy that you got back from the jaw cancer that you had. Thrilled that you're with us. And obviously the Eagle game wasn't a big deal yesterday, but life kind of trumps football, doesn't it?
Well, it does. And, you know, I've got to tell you that my wife yesterday, she freaked out so bad through that whole game. And I can't believe that a real good team like the Philadelphia Eagles can go from being real good to being real bad in one game like that. Now, they played pretty good against Dallas. They got beat by a touchdown, I guess. And we put up 34 points on the board. That's doable. But what happened yesterday when they got beat 20-10, that is totally 100% unacceptable. Nobody came to play. I don't even think the coaches did any coaching during that game.
That's a good point, Bubba. The coaches were awful, horrible game plan, pass heavy, not run. Gardner Minshew, only one turnover. It was a pick six. He wasn't in rhythm. The defense, a lot of completions in the first half, not a lot of points. But going back to your career, you played a long time in this league. You were a Hall of Fame quality linebacker. You played on some really good teams, a Super Bowl team. You played on some bad teams. Do you ever remember playing on a very good team? Obviously, it happened, but I'm interested as to when, where you just woke up and whatever wasn't there that day, didn't play well, didn't coach well, and you got pancaked by someone that you figured to pancake?
Oh, absolutely. It did happen. I can remember one time during a New York Giant game, and it was a Monday night game. And if I decided to go inside, the ball carrier went outside. If I stayed outside, the ball carrier came back inside.
Zag, right?
I made so many mistakes in that game. And then finally, I lined up in the second quarter, and I said to myself, I hate this game. What the hell is happening to me? And about that time, I got one shot in the jaw like you can't believe. And I said, okay, Bergey, you've had your pity party now. Let's go back to playing football. But that was one of my low moments right there. But I've had a few of them. And there's just sometimes, and it's just a human factor, that sometimes you just don't feel like playing football and you're just not into it.
Well,
and that's what the Philadelphia Eagles were yesterday afternoon. None of them were into it. And Gardner Minshew, I think that we probably saw the very last of him as a Philadelphia Eagle. I know he's going to become a free agent now, and I think that game cost him a lot of money, but I don't think you're going to see him as an Eagle backup anymore.
Yeah, I wouldn't say people compare him to Nicky Six. I don't think those are going to, continue. Obviously, Jalen Hurts going to start Sunday, whatever situation he's in. Damo, one thing to ask you about, it's a game that randomly I remember from whenever, I don't know why, but the 1976 Oakland Raiders won the Super Bowl. They were 13-1 that year, back in a 14-game season. The only game they lost, and they moved right through the playoffs, the only game they lost to the New England Patriots, 48-17. In other words, history shows that not every team that wakes up on the wrong side of bed gets back into the right side next week, but these things happen in sports.
Yeah, they do. I mean, that's where coaching comes in. You want to try to compartmentalize bad days at the office like that and get that team, get your team back on the right track. Sirianni's pretty good at that. I think they'll be fine. I don't just expect it to linger. I mean, they made some mistakes. The coaches made some mistakes Sunday. The game plan was horrible. Minshew did not play well. You can go right on down the list with people that did not play well, and they all know it. And their plan is to get it rectified by this week.
You and I both have been around for a while. Bubba, you've been around a little longer than both of us. But part of what we do, Paul, is kind of interpret what coaches say in pressers this week. Brian Dable, the coach of the Giants, yesterday said his starters are going to play next week. Somebody had a little chat with Brian, and by today he was saying we may play some of our guys. None of the Giants starters, obviously football, you don't have a roster big enough to go second and third team, but Giants primarily aren't going to play their starters. I'll give anybody a car if Daniel Jones plays a snap on Sunday. But it happens, and Jalen Hurts didn't play yesterday. I knew he wasn't going to play this week. Nick could say whatever he wants about he's close to playing or whatever. It's all gamesmanship. Either you guys think there's any chance in the world other than him getting injured this week that Jalen Hurts doesn't play and play pretty well this week?
I don't. I mean, I think he's pretty much almost healed anyway. But because the game still has meaning, because they need to win it, he'll play.
Yeah. And Paul, you were talking about the.
We're both Paul.
Well, Paul J. Okay. Another.
Can use one of those names you were mentioning
Another
earlier.
Oakland Raider game that we played. It was in 1969. And the Oakland Raiders that year in a 14-game schedule, they were 12-1-1. And they came in to play the lowly Cincinnati Bengals. And let me tell you what, the score at the half was 28-0, the Bengals ahead. And then after the third quarter was halfway through, we had 42 points. We kicked the daylights out of them so bad it was incredible. But if you're not ready for every game that you're going to play, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah, this isn't Ohio State or Georgia or Alabama against what's the matter you. These lines are very small in the NFL. The difference between any two teams is not that great, Damo. I mean, any team can beat any other team. Obviously, any given Sunday is a term that exists in a lot of ways. Do you find that? I find that one of the great strengths of the NFL, that really there's no locks, nothing. You go in and you just got to play the game, and you got to play this week. And 4:25, by the way, the NFL has timed flex this game to 4:25. The Eagles and the Giants. The real right way to do it, if money is not your prime concern, is the way that baseball does it and the English soccer leagues and every other league. Play all the games at the same time, period. Because then nobody knows what they have to do. But money trumps all in the NFL, which is fine. So they're doing it this way. But 4:25 Sunday.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I was telling my wife earlier, it's just amazing. You know how popular the NFL is when they could do this to the public this week, where they basically kept everybody in the dark over when their team was going to be playing, and nobody complained. I mean, it's just like, okay, we understand.
Yep. And you were in the Super Bowl, Bubba, in 1980, obviously. Do you remember the feeling of how you entered the playoffs that year? You guys obviously were a very good team under Dick Vermeil. Did you enter the playoffs hot? I don't remember. Obviously, you killed the Cowboys in the championship game.
We were in pretty good shape. The thing of it is, to win the NFC championship, we had to play the Dallas Cowboys, and the score of the game was 20-7. Yep. Not indicative of the way the game went. We beat the Cowboys so bad it was incredible. The score could have been 48-0. We kicked the daylights out of them, and I can remember walking down through the tunnel onto the field at the vet, I said, there is no possible way we're going to lose this game. And then we finally got in the locker room after the game had been won, and everybody's jumping and cheering and going crazy. And then somebody said, hey, wait a minute. We have another game to play. They just happened to call it the Super Bowl. And as fired up as we got for the Dallas game, we were that unfired for the game against Oakland. And we got beaten that game. I think it was 27-10 or something like that. Yeah. But we just couldn't get back up to that same level of intensity in that game. And
let me interrupt for 1 second,
okay.
Bob, because we've worked together in the post-game show for a long time, and you've told me many times, I don't think you minded here, that you would have rather never played in the Super Bowl than played in one and lost like you did.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Interesting.
Coming back on the plane, you know, I hadn't had a beer or anything, and I'm a German boy, and I love my beer. After the game, I decided to have my first beer in about 6 or 8 months, and I took one sip of it, and it tasted bitter to me. I hated it. But you know something? I would have been a lot better off if we would have just not played that game, and I would never have had to have worried about my thoughts on that game.
Bill, I know there have been some players on that team that have said, I mean, one of the reasons you lost was you didn't have anything left, that maybe Dick kind of overplayed his hand and worked you guys a little bit too hard, and there wasn't enough left in the tank. Do you agree with that?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. And you know something? I love my Dick Vermeil, real. I love him. He's a great guy, and everything he does is done in the right way. Well, I'll tell you what. A couple of nights before the Super Bowl, the Raiders, they were down on Bourbon Street drinking beer, running around with women, doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
Having fun.
While we were home in our bedrooms, 10 o'clock, with our warm glass of milk and our cookies. And that was the way we had done it all year long, so we couldn't change now. But Dick Vermeil had us under pretty close wraps. And, oh, gosh. You know, even talking about it right now, both of you guys, yeah. I still have my problems with that game. You know, coming back on the plane was the worst flight I've ever had. It was just horrible.
I remember talking to Dick last April before he went into the Hall of Fame, and it still eats at him that the week before the bye week before the Super Bowl, Leonard Tost wanted to have a party for you guys, and Dick still thinks that sent the wrong message to the team because he didn't think you should be having a party to celebrate.
And boy, was it a party too! Holy cow! And I'll tell you what, I don't know who signed the check for that, but it was an unbelievable.
Leonard Tost signed all the checks.
Yeah.
Where was it?
It was at the Bookbinders, and we had lobster and all kinds of great stuff. It was really wonderful. And
I'm sure the Raiders had their party too somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Yep. And well, it happens. And we talk about 2017, 2004, 1980. Everybody's wondering about this team, Damo. Defensively, hey, 7 more sacks yesterday. They only gave up 13 points. Bubba, I tweeted out yesterday that the most overrated word, and Eagle fans are going to hate this, but any fans anywhere, the most overrated term in the NFL is blitz. Blitzing is great. Buddy Ryan did it. Obviously, a lot of guys do it. If it fits, it's wonderful. If you want to keep your back 7 there, it's fine too, because the Eagles get there with the front 4. Hassan Reddick, 16 sacks. Brandon Graham got his 10. 4 guys with 10. Is the word blitz overrated, and it depends on the situation in which you use or don't use it?
Well, we used to have a saying, if you live by the blitz, you're going to die by the blitz.
Yep.
And we picked our blitzes very carefully, and we tried to get in on the quarterback at a certain time. But for a team that is just nothing but a blitzing team and they blitz all the time, you better be damn good or you're going to get in trouble.
Tomo, you think the Eagles secondary is good enough to take risks like that?
Well, I mean, they need to get some of their people healthy. I mean, they've blitzed very little over the last 9-10 games. But I mean, right now they've got. I mean, yesterday I believe they only blitzed 3 or 4 times the entire game.
Sweat got hurt yesterday. It made it harder. Yeah.
But you know, I think Sweat will be back. He seems to be okay. But
thank God.
Their biggest problem, and he ended up having an interception yesterday. But Josiah Scott, they really need to get Avonte Maddox back. I don't know if that's going to happen or not for the playoffs, but he can play safety. He can play in the slot. I think they'll get Gardner Johnson back for the playoffs. Yep. That'll be a big help.
Tell me if I'm right or wrong, but don't we have more sacks now than we've had since 1968?
Eagles have more sacks than anybody in the NFL since 1989. Fourth most sacks ever. And this is week 16.
And they're not really a blitzing team.
No.
Josh Sweat hopefully will be better. The draft pick, by the way, you're looking at Eagles have the 10th pick in the draft now. When we come back, we'll take a look at next week, obviously week 18, the Giants game, what happened wrong yesterday, how to learn from it. Domo does NFL rankings every week for the 33team.com. He'll give us his top 5. Bills and Bengals play tonight in Cincinnati, which should be a heck of a game. This is the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff from the Hard Rock Cafe at 12th and Market. Knew I'd do that one time this year, Chris. We'll be back right after this.
Hard Rock Cafe in Center City has it all. Great food, free live entertainment on Friday nights, and they're the epicenter for special occasions. Let them rock and roll to you with catering for your next gathering or book a private event space for your band's next meeting. Whether it's lunch, dinner, or late night, let them turn it up at Hard Rock Cafe at 12th and Market Street. For more info, visit hardrockcafe.com.
At Independence Blue Cross, we believe in giving you the tools you need to pursue your healthiest life. From premiums as low as $0 per month to health discounts and cash rewards, it pays to have coverage with Independence. With the strongest network of doctors and hospitals in the region and free 24/7 virtual doctor visits, you can feel confident that quality care is always within reach. Explore your coverage options and enroll today at ibx.com.
A truly unique dining experience awaits you at Fogo de Chão. Fogo de Chão awes patrons with their history and tradition of authentic Brazilian steakhouse, offering many cuts of decadent fire-roasted meats prepared over an open fire and served tableside by trained gaucho chefs. Currently featuring a holiday promotion. If you reserve your party now, your guests are rewarded with 2 gifts of your choosing. Contract required. Fogo de Chão, 1337 Chestnut Street in Center City, Philadelphia. For reservations, go to www.fogo.com or call 215-636-9700.
Fall into relaxation at Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa. For an introductory price of just $69.95, enjoy the tranquility of their massage services and the rejuvenating glow their facial services provide. They even have specialty services such as a pumpkin facial or their signature hot stone massage. Restore, relax, and reset at one of Hand and Stone's 57 locations in Delaware, South Jersey, and Philadelphia, including the Lehigh Valley, for an introductory price of just $69.95. Call or book online at handandstone.com. Restrictions apply. See Spa for details.
We now return to the Hard Rock Cafe Philadelphia in downtown Center City for the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and Paul Domowitch.
Alrighty, back here with the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff at the Hard Rock Cafe. We're happy hour every Monday to Friday, 5 to 7 p.m., $1 off Bud Light, Sam Adams, and Blue Moon Draft, $6 House Chardonnay and Merlot, $5 Smirnoff and Cruise Inn Rum Singles, $7 for doubles. And join us here at the Hard Rock for live entertainment in the cafe every Wednesday. Enjoy some great food and happy hour drink specials every Wednesday, 5 to 7. And if that's not enough, every Friday night is Friday Night Live, live music every Friday, 6 to 9 p.m. No cover, the best local artists on the main stage every week. Make your reservations all at www.hardrock.com. Here at the Hard Rock Cafe with Paul Domowitch, our guest Bill Bergey tonight. Damo, for his website, the33team.com, which I encourage you to take a look at, does NFL rankings every week. The Niners scraped by in overtime. The Vikings get beat yesterday. Obviously, the Eagles get beat yesterday. Any scrambling around at the top, Damo?
Well, the rankings will be out after tonight's game, which obviously is going to have some bearing on how it ends up. If Buffalo was number 1 last week. If they beat Cincinnati, they'll stay number 1. I've got San Francisco 2. They struggled a little bit more than they should have with the Raiders, but they won Cincinnati 3 if they play Buffalo close. Kansas City 4, and the Eagles dropped to 5. They were second last week.
All right, Bob, I don't know how much you watched Brock Purdy. You watch San Francisco a lot?
I sure do.
He yesterday was put in a situation. A lot of people thought his first couple weeks, all right, San Francisco's floating every game. They're ahead. He didn't have to take any risks. Let's see what happens when the situation gets dire. Well, it got dire yesterday. He did a hell of a job moving them down in regulation, moving them down in overtime, making some nice throws, making smart plays. Guys, either one of you first. I mean, is this kid for real? I mean, I don't think it's time to put him with Tom Brady yet, who's in the playoffs, by the way, after what he did with Tampa Bay. But what do you think of Brock Purdy now?
I think he's a good football player. I really do. I'll tell you one thing. The reason for that game yesterday is why I don't want to be a kicker in the NFL. That guy, when he blew that that short field goal, and he's a good kicker.
Been there forever, Robbie Gould.
Oh, my gosh, I couldn't believe it. And then he ended up kicking a short one and getting it in overtime. But, no, I think he's a good quarterback, a very adequate backup quarterback, and I think they have what they need there.
Damo, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, the kid is very composed, doesn't get rattled. He understands more than he should, given his experience and level as a rookie. I liked him in college. I mean, I saw a lot of Iowa State's games because my wife is an Oklahoma grad. So
they were a top 10 team too last year.
Yeah, yes, and he had a really good. He had some good coaches that I think helped him along at Iowa State. So I mean, when you're down to your third quarterback, you're basically supposed to just basically give up.
But
this team may win a Super Bowl with their third quarterback.
Yeah, they might, and this Mr. Irrelevant, as they call him. I mean, the Combine goes along in mid-February, right after the Super Bowl in Indianapolis, and a lot of people say, well, the underwear Olympics, all that really matters is the height and weight because schools fudge on that so much. But to me, the real important thing about the Combine is the interview, Damo. We know that Brock Purdy's not going to win the Olympic decathlon, but you have that interview with the teams. They find out what makes you tick. And somebody who may be lacking on the physical side might have the mental side, and the team picks up a guy and says, let's take a shot. Maybe this guy down the road can help us. And it seems like that certainly happened with Purdy. I'm sure every team has gone that way with a couple.
Yeah, I don't think it's so much the interview anymore it's part of the interview. It's when they put them up at the chalkboard, especially when you're talking about quarterbacks, because they're coached so well as far as the Q&A. I mean, there's no question that a team can ask a guy that he hasn't been asked by his agent or somebody that's helped him prepare for the right answer. But they put you up at that board if you're a quarterback, put you in situations, see your recall, see how quickly you can. They'll show you an offense and see how quickly you can absorb it. Things like that are what move, I think, quarterbacks up the boards a lot sometimes.
Paul J., I've got a question for you. What makes San Francisco so good?
Their defense.
Is it the defense?
They have the best defense in the NFL, the best
because right now they're saying that team is better than the Philadelphia Eagles.
Well, they've won 9 games in a row, Bill. I mean, they may be right now. Ultimately,
well, what did we win? 12 out of 13 in a row.
But you can't get – there's no currency that 12 out of 13 or 13 out of 14 gets you. Ultimately, if the Eagles win Sunday, why this game is so important, Damo can chime in with this too, but you only have one bye in each conference, the 1 seed. You get the week off, obviously you get the home games, and San Francisco is going to have to come here and prove they're better than you. I think the Eagles could beat San Francisco. I don't think there's any question. San Francisco's got the better defense, though, Damo, especially the front seven.
I really would love to see that game, matchup-wise. I mean, San Francisco's got some weapons like Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel that you can move all around, and the tight end, all around your formations, and I would like to see how the Eagles defend that. I think they'd be okay. They're much better. Last year they couldn't stop tight ends to save their life. Tight ends, they gave up like 13 touchdown passes to tight ends last year. They've only given up 3 this year.
But what's really different about these two teams, if you look at it, and you're just going to look at stats or tendencies, Jalen Hurts, a lot of people say, well, he shouldn't run. He got hurt running. Yeah, he got hurt running. But to me, And, Bob, if you want to throw in on this, you're welcome to. You got to be who you are in this league, in this world. What makes Jalen Hurts, partly is his ability to run, his ability to improvise, his ability to run called plays. And that Brock Purdy doesn't have that. Many quarterbacks don't have that. When he comes back, he's got to be who he is, or he's not Jalen Hurts. And I think he will. And I think if he's healthy, the Eagles can snap right back to reality. And obviously without Lane Johnson, you got some hills to overcome. But do you agree with me, Bubba, that quarterback has to be who he is?
Yes.
Anybody does.
Absolutely has to be who he is, and you got to play accordingly. I'm going to tell you what, there's no secret to winning in the NFL. You win all the games that you're supposed to win. You steal a game here or there. You get hot at the end of the year, and the bottom line is, and this is a big bottom line, you stay healthy. And that 1 week off at the end of the year is going to be so beneficial to that team that I can't even tell you how incredible that really is.
Well, for people, and Damo, sorry for interrupting, but for people who may not be dialed into this particular thing, tell everybody, Bill, if you could, after 14, you played a lot of 14-game seasons, whatever it is, we're up to 17 now. After 14, 15, 16 weeks, how many seasons that you played were you, quote-unquote, healthy, and how many in which you were sore but not injured and had to miss a game?
Towards the end of my career, I can remember I had to have my wife push me out of bed in the morning. This was after a game on Monday morning. I would be so stiff that I couldn't move. I'd have my arm underneath my body, and I'm awake, and I just can't move. And I say, Mickey, you got to help me. And you just got to take the good with the bad and do the best you can and just call it a day when it's all said and done.
Tomo, a guy like Jason Kelce, who had a bad game yesterday, he's got to do this at this time of year. Obviously, Lane is going to have to buck it up in the playoffs, but nobody's healthy at this time
I
of
was
year.
disappointed in Kelce because he reminds me of a real, true all-pro. And for him to have a bad game, I'm just kind of shaking my head and I'm saying, come on, don't play like that. You're a much better player than that.
Yeah, we still haven't gotten a clear answer on the pre-snap penalties yesterday. Nick Sirianni doesn't want to talk about it, but it's happened. It's happened in just 2 games mainly. This game in Week 13, they had 7 of them.
Yep.
Yeah. What I don't understand what's going on. I mean, they had Jalen in that game, so you can't blame it all on the fact that Gardner had a different cadence. Something's different there that they've got. You can't have that happening in the playoffs. Yeah. You saw yesterday. There were some potential drives that were killed by pre-snap penalties, and then you had that absurd holding call on Landon Dickerson.
That was horrible.
It might have been the best block I've ever seen a guard make.
That's what Moose Johnson said. This is going to go in the highlight film, and it cost him a touchdown.
And I think that the official felt that nobody could effectively do that well. He must have held, and they call it, and it rubs out a touchdown.
Bubba, you ever make a play so good that somebody said you had to have cheated on that play?
If I did, I can't remember. But, when I was out there playing, and before every snap, you know what I'd say to myself? Now, this is going to sound kind of hunky-dory. I'd say, Bill, make this the best play you can possibly make. And there was a lot of times I'd get knocked flat on my behind, but I'd get up the next play and just say, now make this the best play you can. And that was pretty much the attitude that I had in those games for all of those years.
Wonderfully said. And we'll compare some of the Eagle teams, the better Eagle teams, 2004, 2017, with all the injuries, and Nicky Six, who, by the way, could be done after yesterday with the Colts. It's one of the miracles of sports. We'll talk about that with Paul Domowitch and Bill Bergey when we return to the Hard Rock Cafe. Remember, this is the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff. Don't forget, you can watch the show live at WBCBSports.com and Facebook Live by searching WBCB Sports. We're back with a kickoff right after this. Stay with us.
Hard Rock Cafe in Center City has it all. Great food, free live entertainment on Friday nights, and they're the epicenter for special occasions. Let them rock and roll to you with catering for your next gathering or book a private event space for your band's next meeting. Whether it's lunch, dinner, or late night, let them turn it up at Hard Rock Cafe at 12th and Market Street. For more info, visit hardrockcafe.com.
At Independence Blue Cross, we believe in giving you the tools you need to pursue your healthiest life. From premiums as low as $0 per month to health discounts and cash rewards, it pays to have coverage with Independence. With the strongest network of doctors and hospitals in the region and free 24/7 virtual doctor visits, you can feel confident that quality care is always within reach. Explore your coverage options and enroll today at ibx.com.
A truly unique dining experience awaits you at Fogo de Chão. Fogo de Chão awes patrons with their history and tradition of authentic Brazilian steakhouse, offering many cuts of decadent fire-roasted meats prepared over an open fire and served tableside by trained gaucho chefs. Currently featuring a holiday promotion. If you reserve your party now, your guests are rewarded with 2 gifts of your choosing. Contract required. Fogo de Chão, 1337 Chestnut Street in Center City, Philadelphia. For reservations, go to www.fogo.com or call 215-636-9700.
Fall into relaxation at Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa. For an introductory price of just $69.95, enjoy the tranquility of their massage services and the rejuvenating glow their facial services provide. They even have specialty services such as a pumpkin facial or their signature hot stone massage. Restore, relax, and reset at one of Hand and Stone's 57 locations in Delaware, South Jersey, and Philadelphia, including the Lehigh Valley, for an introductory price of just $69.95. Call or book online at handandstone.com. Restrictions apply. See Spa for details.
Don't hang out alone in the man cave this football season. Hang out at Cheerleaders with sexy entertainers, $4 Miller Lights, Jameson specials, and awesome game day prizes during all Sunday and Monday football games. Stop in before, during, or after the game to see your favorite entertainers and your chance to win an awesome game day prize. The most epic game day experience is at Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, where champions play. Open daily from noon till 2 a.m.
We now return to the Hard Rock Cafe Philadelphia in downtown Center City for the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and Paul Domowitch.
Back here with the Monday Night Kickoff for the Hard Rock Cafe. College championship game set for next week. TCU and Georgia, 2 terrific college games over the weekend. Jalen Hurts played at Alabama. He got taken out at halftime of a national championship game for Tua, but he's getting put back in next week. And the whole thing with the MVP guys, with Jalen Hurts, I think Jalen has the right attitude about it. He lets other people decide that. Joel Embiid last year, I thought, campaigned for it. That's kind of an NBA thing. Jalen Hurts missed a week. Why that would disqualify him, who knows? Obviously, Mahomes is a great player. Allen, a couple others. But, Damo, what's your thoughts on Jalen and the MVP?
I think it's between him and Patrick Mahomes. I'm not sure. I think it's him being hurt has actually helped him, because I think teams have people, you look and see how valuable.
After yesterday,
you realize watching yesterday's game how valuable he is to this team.
Sure.
So you don't see that very often. But my guess is, he's going to win it, but we'll see what happens.
Bubba, do you guys have anybody on your Eagle teams or your Bengal teams where you were drafted that were as young as Jalen Hurts, as mature as he is, and really were leaders on the team? Because it seems like Jalen Hurts was cut out of a different cloth than most.
No, we had a bunch of derelicts when I played. We didn't have anybody like Jalen Hurts, but we had a bunch of guys that I really loved, and the reason I loved them so much is nobody cared who got the glory or the pats on the back or anything like that. All we wanted to do was win, and what a great atmosphere that is to play in.
Yeah,
it's the way sports should be, Damo.
I don't know if you guys. One of the things that struck me after the game yesterday, and some of the player comments, particularly A.J. Brown and Hassan Reddick. They didn't exactly throw Gardner Minshew under the bus. What they did was you understood how highly they think of Jalen.
Yeah.
A.J. Brown talked about, how he was trying to alert Gardner Minshew to what Marshawn Lattimore was doing on that play, and he didn't see it, and he called it anyway. And the suggestion was that wouldn't have happened with Jalen. And then Hassan Reddick basically just openly said, Jalen's special. And by saying that, he's basically saying Gardner's
not.
But he didn't.
Obvious.
But he meant it in a, it just, that locker room I've never seen a locker room that has such a high regard for a quarterback and high regard for him as a leader as they do for Jalen Hurts right now.
What about Nick Sirianni? We always talk about what a great job he's done this year. Last year they came in through the side door at 9-8. Is this his first mini crisis of confidence, Damo? Obviously he's in the playoffs, has to win against a Giant team that doesn't figure to play everybody. They're locked into the number 6 seed. But he's got to get his players up and motivated, and Jalen, and we'll see about the injuries. Is this a big challenge for Nick this week?
A little bit. I mean, we talked earlier about the fact that he did not coach well yesterday.
No.
And he said he didn't coach well, and he said that I have to do a better job. And when my coach, Dick Vermeil, would say that, I would really appreciate it, because Vermeil said, I did a lousy job, guys. I've got to do a better job, and if you guys want to help me, I sure would appreciate it. But no, he owned up to the whole thing himself, and I really did appreciate that.
All right, Damo, here's one for you. A, Shane Steichen, B, Jonathan Gannon, C, neither. Which of these guys do you think somehow will be included as big-time candidates in the NFL coaching carousel, however many vacancies there are this offseason?
Well, I mean, Gannon's ahead of Steichen from the standpoint of he had some interviews last year. My guess would be Gannon. I think Steichen is a guy that's going to suffer from the fact that he is the offensive coordinator on a team that has an offensive head coach. So if you ask me which one's going to be gone next year because he gets a head coaching job, I would say it's going to be Jonathan Gannon.
Bubba, you played for Dick Vermeil, who doesn't need us to talk about him at all. He's been on this show. He's a legend, Hall of Famer, and should be. Who was the best assistant coach you ever played for?
Probably Marion Campbell. And I'll tell you what, he was tough, and he didn't let us get away with anything. We had to walk the wire and stay on it, and if we did something bad, he'd get right in your face. And I can remember one time that I challenged him on a call that he made down on the goal line, and I don't know what it was. It was cover something, and it was the perfect call for that time in the game, which was late in the game, and they ended up scoring. And I had said to a couple of my teammates, I said, why in the hell did he call what he called? He should have called so-and-so and so-and-so. The next day, he came into the locker room, walked right up into my locker, and he said, I found out that you didn't like my call, my cover 7 call in that game yesterday. And I go, yeah, Marion, I was wondering why you did that. He said, because I didn't want to do that. And don't you ever challenge me on any call. If you would have done what you were supposed to do, we would have been in good shape. And I mean, he really lit me up big time. But I had a lot of respect for Marion Campbell. He was a good assistant. He
was a good guy, too. I felt sorry for him because, he took over after Vermeil left. And basically at that point, the Eagles were an older team. Yeah. Didn't have, they needed to make some changes. They didn't have the personnel, the front office people that were capable of making those changes and kind of making the team younger and better. And he basically had a bad team and spent 3 years trying to, get them to win, and it wasn't an easy task.
All right, Tommy, you've covered this team for a long time. You've covered 1 million assistants, both position. John Harbaugh, we know his situation. Gruden, obviously Bud Carson, Jim Johnson, many others. If you had to select one as the greatest Eagle assistant coach you've ever seen for what they did with the Eagles, not afterwards, who would you pick?
Without hesitation, Jim Johnson.
Over Bud Carson, because?
Bud Carson was the one I was thinking about, yeah.
Well, I mean, because Jim was just such he was a genius when it came to creating blitzes, finding ways to break down an offensive line. I mean, what he did, and he had the perfect weapon in Brian Dawkins, and he kind of made it all. I mean, you look at the numbers for like 7-8 years when he was in charge until he got sick and passed away in 2009. Yeah, I mean, if any assistant belongs in the Hall of Fame, it's Jim Johnson.
How many years was he with the Eagles?
10.
10. Yeah, he came in '99, and he passed away in 2009.
He had an interesting philosophy, too. He wasn't the world's most aggressive guy between the 20s, but then his baby was a red zone.
Yeah.
Interesting how a defense coordinator can look at the field and look at the game.
Well, the difference between, Buddy Ryan was blitz crazy, the 46 defense.
Yep.
Buddy Ryan was reckless. I mean, it worked and he had great talent.
Yeah.
But,
coaches will tell you, by the way, that great coaches are great coaches because of great talent. No matter what they coach, who they coach, or how they coach them. Yeah. You have to have that to start with. Right?
Oh, yeah. And Jim Johnson had great talent.
Yep.
And Bud Carson, he was to the offense like Jim Johnson was to the defense. Bud Carson was a great coach.
Absolutely. And you look at those early 90s Eagles teams, I remember one year they were number 1 in overall defense,
91.
number 1 against the run, number 1 against the pass.
They're the last team to do that.
Yeah, and again, they had some tremendous talent, but he knew how to maximize that talent.
All right, so Sunday, guys, got to win the game for the 1 seed, for the bye, for the hearts and souls of the fans who are on the rails right now. What do the Eagles have to do to win Sunday other than simply go and play Eagle football? They're going to face a team that probably isn't going to play all their starters. They probably are. Jalen Hurts going to start. What's Nick Sirianni's message to the team, Bubba, in the locker room before the game that guarantees as much as he can that they get a real effort, get into the playoffs as the 1 seed, and then roll the dice?
Well, he's going to say, don't beat ourselves. Let's not do anything stupid. Play within the scope of what we have coached you, what we've taught you, and just play good, hard football.
You see a lot of cold runs for Jalen?
I don't think for Jalen, but I think for Sanders, you'll see probably better running. But I think it's going to be a controlled football game early with the Eagles getting ahead, and then they'll open it up. And I think I look to see this game probably by 3 or 4 touchdowns.
13, the Eagles are favored by Domo. You think the second half, the bench is emptied or not?
You would hope so. Once they get this game in hand, Nick's going to do what the Giants are doing. Going to do. Get your guys that matter out of there, so you have them in 2 weeks later when you play in the division round of the playoffs.
I think what Daboll said today, and guys who are coy about whether they're going to play it. Listen, there's no reason to play these guys last week and get them hurt. Everything in life, everything in football, everything in business, everything everywhere is about risk-reward. And the reward just doesn't meet the risk for somebody to stay sharp for a week as to the chance of him getting hurt. What's your basic view on rest versus rust, which is every coach's nightmare at this time of year?
Rest above all else. You're not. You've played 17 games. You're not going to be rusty. Taking 2 weeks off.
Good point.
It's funny. You go back to 2017 when they won the Super Bowl, because people have talked about momentum now, and what if the Eagles struggle but win on Sunday? Can they get it back by the playoffs? Well, look how they went into the playoffs in 2017. Carson gets hurt. Nick Foles has 2 games to get ready for the playoffs. He doesn't play particularly well in either of those games. And then all of a sudden, it was like a light one. It was lightning in a bottle. It was just incredible. They played like I've never seen a team play in 4 games or 3 games.
I think about the year that I went to the Super Bowl with the Eagles in 1980. And I want to tell you, I thought that with the rest that we had towards the end of the season was the best thing in the world for us. It really meant so much to us. Now, unfortunately, we got beat, but that rest when you've had a long season just means so much to you.
Well, when we come back, we're going to talk about rest. We're also going to talk about the eternal rest in peace of Art McNally, who passed away today, age 97, the NFL supervisor of officials that all of us knew, and also about a guy that you're familiar with. Some people say pixie dust. Some people say the arm of God was on him. One of the most unusual careers in the history of the NFL may have ended yesterday. We'll talk about it when we're back here at the Hard Rock Cafe for the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff with Paul Domowitch and our great guest, Bill Bergey. Happy New Year, everybody. Back final segment right after this.
Hard Rock Cafe in Center City has it all. great food, free live entertainment on Friday nights, and they're the epicenter for special occasions. Let them rock and roll to you with catering for your next gathering, or book a private event space for your band's next meeting. Whether it's lunch, dinner, or late night, let them turn it up at Hard Rock Cafe at 12th and Market Street. For more info, visit hardrockcafe.com.
At Independence Blue Cross, we believe in giving you the tools you need to pursue your healthiest life. From premiums as low as $0 per month to health discounts and cash rewards, it pays to have coverage with Independence. With the strongest network of doctors and hospitals in the region and free 24/7 virtual doctor visits, you can feel confident that quality care is always within reach. Explore your coverage options and enroll today at ibx.com.
A truly unique dining experience awaits you at Fogo de Chão. Fogo de Chão awes patrons with their history and tradition of authentic Brazilian steakhouse, offering many cuts of decadent fire-roasted meats prepared over an open fire and served tableside by trained gaucho chefs. Currently featuring a holiday promotion. If you reserve your party now, your guests are rewarded with 2 gifts of your choosing. Contract required. Fogo de Chão, 1337 Chestnut Street in Center City, Philadelphia. For reservations, go to www.fogo.com or call 215-636-9700.
Fall into relaxation at Hand and Stone Massage and Facial Spa. For an introductory price of just $69.95, enjoy the tranquility of their massage services and the rejuvenating glow their facial services provide. They even have specialty services such as a pumpkin facial or their signature hot stone massage. Restore, relax, and reset at one of Hand and Stone's 57 locations in Delaware, South Jersey, and Philadelphia, including the Lehigh Valley, for an introductory price of just $69.95. Call or book online at handandstone.com. Restrictions apply. See Spa for details.
Don't hang out alone in the man cave this football season. Hang out at Cheerleaders with sexy entertainers, $4 Miller Lights, Jameson specials, and awesome game day prizes during all Sunday and Monday football games. Stop in before, during, or after the game to see your favorite entertainers and your chance to win an awesome game day prize. The most epic game day experience is at Cheerleaders Gentlemen's Club, where champions play. Open daily from noon till 2 a.m.
We now return to the Hard Rock Cafe, Philadelphia in downtown Center City for the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff Show. Once again, here are your hosts, Paul Jolovitz and Paul Domowitch.
Back at the Hard Rock with the Monday Night Kickoff, having a great time with Bubba Bergey, great Eagle linebacker from the 70s and 80s, Paul Domowitch, my co-host tonight. And guys, there may not be another player in the history of football, in the history of sports, if you can think of one, please let me know, that people think we're blessed, had pixie dust, whatever your adjective is. Nick Foles had an unbelievable year in 2013, 27 TDs, 2 picks with the Eagles. Obviously the Super Bowl run when Carson got hurt. We'll talk about Carson in this segment as well. In 2017, yet anywhere other than Philadelphia, he was, as I say, Vinny Boombots. Is it just one of those things that happens in life and you just shrug, Domo? Can you think of any reason whatsoever? For Nick Foles being a great Eagle and a horrible everything else.
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised when he finally got a chance to, after the, was it 2 years afterwards, after the Super Bowl, I thought he would, when he would get an opportunity to start someplace, I thought he would kind of be successful, and it didn't happen. I mean, it was just like a guy who, caught magic for such a brief time.
In between, too, 2 different coaches with the Eagles, it just defies.
And he has no regrets. I mean, he's happy.
But how many backups have a statue outside the stadium? I mean, he has a statue.
Yeah.
Gardner Minshew doesn't. Brock Purdy doesn't and won't.
Well, I'll tell you what. I thought Nick Foles did a good job in getting himself a real nice big contract after that Super Bowl. Yeah. And I think most of it was guaranteed.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and he, Damo, we were talking during the break that Kayvon Thibodeau, who was a Giant, who was the 5th pick in the draft this year out of Oregon, sacked Nick Foles yesterday. He fell on Nick Foles. Nick Foles fell on the ball. Yeah. Ribs were a problem, but Kayvon Thibodeau decided to play 5th grader next to him, and took a little issue with that, huh?
Yeah. I mean, I tweeted today that there. I was wondering if there were. if Kayvon Thibodeau and Steve Sarkisian could be traded to the Russians for anybody.
Putin? I don't want Putin. Bubba, you want Putin?
I mean, I've never seen anything like it. I mean, Nick Foles is in distress on the ground, appears to be having a seizure. You could see his arms twitching. And Kayvon Thibodeau is, obviously he didn't. I got to believe he didn't see that Nick Foles, how bad he was, because he's laying next to him doing that turf angel thing. Players are trying to get him to stop, and he's still doing it. I mean, I'm surprised that none of Nick Foles' teammates just didn't kill them.
Yeah, and there's only one thing that really irked me as much as something like that is when a team is ahead 28-0, and some guy goes through the line and tackles a quarterback or a running back for a loss.
Losing team.
And then, then he's dancing all over the place. That really gets me,
Yeah, Gastineau used to do it all the time, down 58-3, gets a sack. Individuals, it bothers me in sports.
I'm old school.
Me too.
We're all old school, but the lack of respect in the game today for the players have for each other is just really disturbs me and concerns me. I mean, I'm watching a college game Saturday. At one of the college games, guy in the end zone is who knocked a pass away is standing over the guy.
Marvin Harrison, Ohio State game.
Yeah. I mean, come on. Act like you've been there before. It just.
Yeah, it is what it is. There's another guy out there that has not performed as well as he did earlier in his career. Not quite the same career arc as Nick Foles. We kind of know him well. His name is Carson Wentz. Ron Rivera chose him to start yesterday's game. A lot of people disagree with that. Taylor Heineke had done pretty well with the Commanders, and Carson threw 3 picks. Have you turned the page, Damo and Bill, or do you continue to get glee when Carson, obviously this city is a sports-mad city. It's crazy. The Eagles got pancaked themselves yesterday, but how do you react when Carson has a bad game? Is there a snicker inside?
No, not really. It kind of bothers me. I had a chance a couple of times to just rap with Carson, and he asked me for some of my advice, and I said, well, the only advice I can give you is your career is not going to be that long in the NFL because nobody's career is that long unless you're a Tom Brady. And I said, you just do what you can do and enjoy it as much as you can enjoy it because it's going to be over pretty quick. And he really appreciated that advice that I gave him.
What happened to make his career maybe look shorter than it was, Tomo? I mean, something's up with him, obviously.
Yeah. It's funny. When they drafted Hurts, my colleague Les Bowen wrote how this was good. He couldn't understand this. Putting a guy, you're going to have him looking over his shoulder at Jalen. And I just thought this was absurd. I thought, Jalen Hurts, Carson Wentz has this huge, they just gave him that huge contract.
$128 million.
Jalen Hurts is a second-round pick that they brought in just basically to be the backup at that point.
Yep.
How is this guy going to feel insecure because Jalen's on the team? And it's exactly what happened. I mean, Carson, I don't know. I mean, and he never recovered from that. He never recovered from the struggle he had getting benched. And then, they wanted to fix him. They wanted to bring him back that next year. And he just was, his feelings were so hurt, he wanted to be traded. And
Paul J., I got to tell you something.
Yep.
My 13 years in the NFL, I beat out legit 53 middle linebackers. Now, a lot of people would welcome middle linebackers to push you and all that.
Yeah, but
Guess what?
By year 8 or 9, you didn't have to beat anybody else.
Yeah.
It's not like Vinny Boss was.
I hated every single one of them. Just like
But it didn't
Carson,
affect your play.
Yeah.
I mean, except it motivated you.
But just like Carson Wentz, he just doesn't want to have anybody behind him, anybody pushing him. But he did get hurt quite a little bit, too.
But listening to you guys talk about this, I think what comes across to me and maybe people listening as well is how important the mental side of the game is. That you got to push things aside, and Jalen Hurts does that so well. I think if you reversed, psyches inside the bodies of these two, that wouldn't happen if Jalen Hurts was Carson Wentz and vice versa, right?
Well, no. I mean, look, Jalen's been through that.
Yeah.
I mean, Jalen's been given up on when he was in college, and it only made him stronger. It only made him better. He worked harder. the guy's mentality and his whole approach to the game is about as perfect as you're ever going to find. I mean, he's never satisfied. He never brags. He's...
Yeah, he is a class guy. He really does everything the right way.
Yeah.
All right, guys, a couple minutes left. Look at a couple things around the NFL yesterday. The two oldest people in the NFL in different ways. Tom Brady back in the playoffs after a 430-something-yard game. Obviously, a lot older. Art McNally, the supervisor officials who officiated when Mr. Bergey played, passed away yesterday at the age of 97. I remember a day up at the Meadowlands when something happened, something crazy happened in the game. Merrill didn't know the rule. Mike didn't know the rule. I had no idea. Billy Warndell didn't know the rule. And Merrill said, go down and see if Art McNally can help you with this one. And I ran down, and obviously he'd watched the same play we all watched, and he was 90-something years old. He just coherently went through it, and one of the great voices of the NFL on the officiating side went into the Hall of Fame last year. Damo, I know Bubba knew him well. Your thoughts, guys?
He was. I mean, it's seldom that being a nice guy and being a Hall of Fame type guy in your profession intersect. But what it did with Art McNally, a Philly guy that was just a terrific guy.
Yeah, and the thing of it is, he made all the other officials look good too. He was that good at what he did. He studied the game. He never made any mistakes. And
never?
Well, not very often. And if you had a bitch, he would get right back in your face and he'd say, you're wrong, and this is why you're wrong. But I had a lot of respect for Art McNally. He was a great official.
All right, final thing, guys. Bubba, when you made the playoffs, regardless whether you backed in, slid in, were top seed, fifth seed, obviously had different games, different playoff formats, how excited were you when that last regular season game ended and the tournament was in front of you, knowing that as long as you didn't lose, you're going to win a Super Bowl?
Oh, it was really exciting because guess what? You get, and this is back when I wasn't making that much money, you'd get another paycheck for another game that you're playing. So when you got to play an extra game in the NFL at the end of the year, it was a big bonus for you.
How many more paychecks the Eagles going to get, Domo?
I think they're going to. I mean, I think they're going to at least make it to the NFC Championship game. Whether they can get past.
Who are you afraid of? Anybody? Green Bay, San Francisco?
San Francisco's the team that
Green Bay at all?
Give them, no. They're on a roll right now. Aaron Rodgers playing well, but I think they're going to trip up. I'm not sure they're going to beat the Lions next week.
All right, that game is, by the way, that's a Sunday night game. The two games Saturday, Doug Peterson going for the AFC South Championship against Tennessee at home. And KC going for the one. Yeah, they are to watch. Doug, they've beaten some teams and can come up for the back door. Bubba.
Yeah, and you know something? It's okay to have a lull at the end of the season because at one time, the year that we went to the Super Bowl, we were 10-1. We ended up losing 3 games, and we ended up 12-4. And it was okay because that got us ready for those playoff games.
Well, yesterday might have been a wake-up call for the Eagles. Could have been a good thing. Nick Sirianni's got to find a way to steer that to the positive. Eagles and Giants, 4:25 Sunday at the Link. We'll be there. We'll be here next Monday night at the Hard Rock with Adam Talaferro, the Penn State player who was paralyzed in the game against Ohio State, is going to do miraculous things. Bill Bergey, thank you so much for being with us.
My pleasure.
Thank God you're healthy and have a great 2023.
Thank you, and you too.
Thank you, Damo. It's been great. Have fun. And any final statements for this week?
No. Been a pleasure as always, Jolly, and everybody have a great weekend, a safe weekend.
The only thing I'd like to say is I don't want anybody to panic. We're going to win this game, and we're going to have the #1 seed, and I hope that we roll into the playoffs and do some damage.
You heard it from Bubba. 10th draft pick, but the #1 seed. Go Eagles. Chris Sommer produced this fine program. We appreciate that. For Paul Domowitch and Bill Bergey, I'm Paul Jolovitz from the Hard Rock Cafe saying good night for the Independence Blue Cross Monday Night Kickoff, and go Eagles!